Welcome, everyone, to an ILTA Fireside Chat entitled From Pilots to Playbooks, AI and Practice Management. I'm Daniel Wood, the Director of Counsel Assistance at Womble Dickinson, and I'm delighted to be joined by my esteemed colleagues for this timely discussion. At this point, I'll ask each panelist to introduce themselves briefly, and then we'll jump right into the topic. Ashley?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley Burns-Smith. I'm a Platform Innovation Manager at Troutman Pepperlock, and I help focus on the firm's internal platforms on our knowledge management and innovation team.
Thank you. Damien?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Damian Primersky. I'm a legal project manager at Lowenstein's investment management practice, and I'm based in New York. And, I sit in between legal technology innovation, but from a practice side perspective, helping manage our matters and technology adoption.
Thank you. Mike?
Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Kochkin. I'm the founder of BeSavvy Simulators. So we develop AI-powered simulations for law firms to help them develop the next generation of juniors.
Thank you all very much. Well, jumping right into our topic today, AI has moved quickly from experimentation to real operational use in many law firms. From your perspective, what does it actually mean for AI to move from pilot to practice? Ashley, we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Ever since the emergence of AI, it seems like the role of KM within the firms has changed overnight. KM&I has come front and center, and it seems like every firm is set up slightly differently. But here at Troutman, we have a KM&I department, and we feel like that aligns with where the legal industry is going. We found that it's really important to have champions within the firm, on the partner level, but also CAM and AI attorneys that can help with the adoption and finding out where the needs are. It seems like there's just so much curiosity about AI and what it can do within the legal industry. And it seems like right now every tool has some kind of an AI function built into it. And it's constantly changing. So, people might think that they've learned something, and then by the time they're comfortable with it, it's changed. So it's always asking, like, what more can we do with AI, and what can we do next with AI? So we here at the firm, we have some internal platforms that we've created that can help solve some niche problems. And there's also broader tools out there that still might help solve more specific problems. There's a time and a place that you can use each of these tools. It just depends on the type of problem that you're trying to solve. But it's important to have a comfortable baseline to AI and build upon that. So yeah, here at Troutman, we built out an internal Gen AI platform called Athena, and that's widely used and adopted throughout the firm. So there's the very broad there, and then you've got the smaller and more niche specific platforms that we use. And it's like, how can we get buy-in to those? If we have a limited number of licenses, if it's not an enterprise application, working really closely with practice management to help define the rollout and the pilot groups up front, so we're all aligned.
Excellent. Damien, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think from a practice management perspective, what teams typically look at is repeatability of any kind of new technology or processes. The processes they embed measured metrics, right? They can rely on, and workflows and use cases that are risk aware, right? And so people are properly trained. From my roles perspective, right, in legal project management, right, it's creating specific use cases and moving away from those kind of experimental AI use conversations to embedded standardized matter workflows. And that is also true when we talk about the practice management level, right, from a budget perspective, from a matter staffing perspective. And so using any kind of staffing tools, right? Capacity planning tools and things like that. And even though they may not heavily rely on AI use as an internal component of the tool itself, right? Bringing into AI into your analytics, report generation, or simply AI assisted decision making, right, is one of those steps, right, that you can now see and you should strive to move toward as you're moving toward those kind of practice specific AI implementation scenarios.
Excellent. Mike, your thoughts?
So I'm focusing on introducing AI into training, and I must say that this is very different from using AI to do the actual legal work. And I think this needs to be taken into account when using AI in training. Because when you are a lawyer and you have an AI tool helping you do the job, you either like it and you use it on a regular basis, or you do not like it, so you just don't use it. When we use AI in training, we actually give AI a very important role, the role of a judge. So it actually says that you are doing something wrong. It provides you feedback. It tries to put you in a situation when you can actually make a mistake. And lawyers hate making mistakes. They are brought up in an environment where they are punished for making mistakes. So changing their attitude and being okay with being in an environment where AI is challenging them, it is pretty hard. And I think that's why we need to take this into account when using AI in training. And we also need to develop very supportive environments in law firms where people can use AI in training and they can be confident that they will not be judged and their development and their progression in the law firm will not be impacted by the way they train using AI bots and other AI tools. So yeah, I think introducing AI into the work and training of lawyers is also a very important cultural question, and we need to focus on culture to make sure that everyone is using AI successfully.
Okay. Thank you all for that. Ashley, many firms are deciding whether to adopt broad AI platforms or to build more specialized internal tools. What have you learned about when specialization makes sense?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a time and a place. We do have a lot of out-of-the-box vendor solutions that we use, but we also have built out a few internal tools here. So an example I mentioned earlier was Athena, our internal AI tool. You know, that can be used more broadly, and we've built out different skill sets that sit within Athena for the problem that you're trying to solve. But we've also have our own in-house developers here at the firm. So I kind of liaise between our developers and the business needs of the firm, sitting on the KMI team. In two platforms that we have built out. One is a firm app called Mobile One. It is a application that anybody at the firm can download onto their mobile device to help them access internal firm resources that usually live on the intranet. So they don't need to be, connected to the firm network to be able to access that. And we've seen great adoption with it. And we've developed an internal firm platform called Engage, which is our in-house workload allocation tool. This was a platform that emerged that was working with practice management and legal talent to help build out. Basically what it is it's a weekly survey that goes out to our associates and paralegals, and that helps staff matters, so workload allocation for that upcoming week. That also has fantastic adoption. There's definitely a pro that when you do build internally, you can build it to like fit your firm versus making your firm fit the solution. So that's definitely a big pro there in my opinion. An important part of that, though, is making sure that you have like the internal trust and relationships to make these products come to life. You really want to have more of like a lateral thinking versus just vertical. Lateral, I mean, like you need to involve, InfoGov, security, enterprise architecture, your training teams. There's just a lot more to think about and a lot more at stake when you build these internal platforms. So you just want to always make sure you're dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's.
Okay. Damien, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think from my perspective is actually right creating matter specific workflows and use cases, working within your teams on things that are where you have the properly trained specialists, right, and properly designed workflows and guidebooks that are aligned with the specific use cases of what you're working with. I think lawyers tend to be very cognizant of what works for them and what doesn't, right? And having those specialists and having those examples where you can show successful stories, right, and highlight successful use cases on real practical matters and the things that are used to can be extremely powerful.
Well, Damien, we'll stick with you. So thinking from a legal project management perspective, how does AI change how matters should be designed and delivered?
Oh, thank you so much. That's a wonderful question. And that's one of the things I keep thinking about from a legal project management, from a strategy perspective, and how legal project management is evolving as a field. So I think matter architecture or matter design and legal service delivery in the AI era should be approached drastically differently as opposed to when we were historically looking at other legal technology tools adoption. And that is primarily driven by the fact that it's a very new technology, yet the adoption rate is extremely high, right? We now have um, specialists within law firms who are, are trained in AI as a technology that can design AI tools themselves from a programming perspective, right? So, and that's something that is not typically seen, especially at this stage and speed with new technology, especially when we talk about legal technology implementation at law firms specifically. From my perspective, I think we should start looking at how we're designing budgets and staffing and matter workflows specifically, right, as a when we're talking about matter architecture with AI already embedded, right, in our blueprint of that matter, and having the right people and the right tools in the very beginning, or at least having them identified, right? So we're asking our clients the right questions. We're also aligning the right people internally within our teams, right? We're bringing folks like Ashley, right? Knowledge management, innovation teams, specifically our AI training specialists, right? And bringing people in with intimate knowledge of that particular practice area or legal matter type and AI use in combination. I think that really helps us in avoiding, from a risk management and client management perspective, any kind of last minute maneuvering, any last minute budget overruns or explanations, right? When we know from the very get-go that that's the technology that is appropriate for us to be using here, that is the scope of its use, and that's how we're using it. And talking about the scope, right, we also have to be mindful that in a lot of OCGs, outside counsel guidelines, and matter specific operational kind of guidelines that are client imposed, a lot of clients are becoming very aware, right, and very prescriptive of AI use as it comes to their outside counsel and how their outside counsel is employing AI within those matters. It's just as an example, right? If you have a client who is an AI startup or an AI firm that runs and produces the technology itself, they may as well be very specific that they don't want any of their documents or any of their legal information that they share with their law firm, with their outside counsel, to be used by that law firm within another AI tool that is, for example, their direct competitor. That is very sensible and very expected, yet something to be very aware of.
Ashley, your thoughts?
Yes, yes. I just definitely want to reiterate what Damien said about always get permission. Always get permission from the client. Don't ask too many times. Like, just we want to make sure we have permission before we utilize AI with anything involving our clients. But I think a way that you know, our KMI team here at the firm can help is just like with like workflow redesign. We can, sit in on practice group meetings or with attorneys, and we've even sat in with external client team meetings before to like listen to a problem and see how we can help. We've got a fantastic client experience team here that we always work with when we're delivering things to the client. We want to make sure that we design it so it works within the workflow. Or if we have to completely reimagine something, you want to make sure you're getting the input from the attorneys who are going to be utilizing it and the client if it's reaching the client side. Because we've got some internal tools here that we can help deliver to our clients more seamlessly through a custom portal. So we can create like custom portals. We use HiQ. That have matter trackers that sit on there that also have custom workflows set up for those specific clients. So we just want to work on designing and delivering the workflows with the client's needs front and center. If they're going to be touching that workflow and that portal as well, or what our partners and need front and center to make that happen.
Excellent. Those are excellent points. Thank you for sharing those. Shifting gears just for a little bit, Mike, historically, one of the biggest challenges firms report is adoption. From your work with training simulations, what's actually preventing lawyers from using AI effectively?
If we speak about training, I think there are two systemic limitations that are actually preventing law firms from adopting AI training faster. And the first one is actually our attitude to training. So traditionally, legal training had very bad feedback loops. So we are very much used to just learning something and then hoping that it will become useful one day. And very often it never becomes useful. So people are not used to treating training as a system. And I think the second limitation is the problem of timing, because lawyers need training at very specific time, and they have very little free time to actually devote it to training. So usually they need training at the moment when they can't get it, and this is a big problem. So we tried to resolve both of these problems at one of our recent projects where we were building an M&A simulation. And we actually had these two limitations in mind when designing the simulation. And that's why, for example, we tried to solve the feedback loop problem by integrating this feedback loop into every task that lawyers face inside the simulation. So for example, if they are practicing talking to a client and better understanding how to structure the deal, so they have this conversation with an AI bot, and then the moment they finish, the bot provides them feedback saying like, this was good, this was bad, and then it actually prompts them to try one more time. It asks them like, let's have another attempt. Maybe you can score even higher, making you do even better. And in this way, we're trying to really bring this feedback loop approach into legal training. And the timing problem, we also trying to resolve it by breaking the simulation into very small steps, allowing to distribute these small portions of simulations to lawyers at the very moment when they face similar tasks in a real transaction. So I think these are the two problems that are actually preventing the quick adoption of AI training. But I think that we already have solutions to these problems, which is good news.
Excellent. Damien, do you have thoughts?
Sure. I think I would just say that, from when you're thinking about adoption of AI at a practice level, you have to take advantage of all the professionals and the deep expertise, both internally and externally. So people like Mike, people like Ashley, right? Your technology innovation teams and vendors that provide training, right, and adoption use support. The resources out there. The problem is that making sure you are able to properly combine them, the right people, right, and make it part of your strategy, both from a client matter end, right, at that kind of granular micro level, but also from a practice management perspective, right? If you're thinking about practice and from a practice administration strategy, right? How you're managing your lawyers, how you're managing your technology stack, right? And with that, right, the conversation of adoption and its success is, it lies within that.
Picking up on one of the things you said about external experts, Damien, many firms do bring in external experts who demonstrate tools, but sometimes adoption can still remain low. What approaches have actually worked in embedding AI into real legal work? Ashley?
Yeah, sure. So our KMI team partners with all the practice groups around the firm to help identify the correct groups when, utilizing AI and other platforms that we have. We do a lot of trainings. We do lunches. People love lunch. We've also launched at our firm too. We have KMI specific pins that employees can collect from attending trainings. And so people love to collect these pins. That's been a really, really fun thing that we've been able to do. But we also have KM and AI partners in each practice group, in addition to KMI specific attorneys on our KMI team that can help us identify the appetite towards AI and other tools there. And we want to encourage our employees to think creatively about different ways they can use the tool and also encourage AI training for every role at the firm.
Makes sense. Mike would love your thoughts on this as well.
So if we speak about AI in training, we really need the support of partners here, because partners are actually the people who everyone wants to learn from. They don't really want to learn from an AI bot. They want partners to share their wisdom and share their skills. Understandably, partners cannot spend all of their time doing this. So we need them on board in one of the capacities. They should either be willing to share some of their skills and knowledge with AI systems so that AI systems become some kind of a media transferring the skills in a more efficient way from partners to the junior level, or they should work together with the AI system. For example, in one of our projects, everyone who completed AI simulations actually had a chance to discuss the results, the outcomes with the partner, and they really loved this approach because the partners had a chance to get the feedback from the system, understand where people have problems, understand where people need help, and then target their sessions to solve these particular problems.
Yeah, and if I may add to this a little bit as well, Daniel. So what I think from a kind of a practical tooltip perspective, I think creating documentation, right? Having those champions, as Mike mentioned, right? But also documenting your successes and your use cases as you work on either be it a practice management strategy, like a staffing analytics report for your practice group leadership, right? But from if you're working on a matter, right, and you, so for example, right, we do a lot of work with very specific kind of investment agreements, right? And as part of that, as I set up review tables for our attorneys, and we think about our review process and design. At some point, you have to start documenting this, right? Because this is your success story and this is your work product. You can share it with our practices within your firm, right? And with our own internal teams. And that's, having that kind of human aspect of leadership and sharing those stories and use cases can be fantastic, can be supplemented, in a fantastic way by having those written artifacts and guides that just kind of document everything and create your playbook.
That's a great point, Damien, and all three of you. Thank you for sharing. So, as we think of firms trying to move beyond pilots, what is one practical step that helps turn AI experiments into scalable practice playbooks? Ashley, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think the first thing is just identifying practice specific problems first, not trying to solve too many problems at once. trying to build the solutions, whether they're, from a vendor or whether they're internally developed at your firm, building solutions like close to the workflow and trying to build out from what people are already using and doing and not trying to reinvent the wheel too quickly. And trying to just help it fit into the day-to-day workflow so it's easy and people keep coming back to it and that it's like their first thought to use this tool to help them achieve a problem.
Excellent points. Damien?
Yeah, I think for me, is thinking about AI as this integral part of your matter delivery and practice management, right? It's no longer an option or something that you may want to try. Think of it more strategically. It's now an integrated and embedded part of your daily process, right? Both the larger picture, your strategy, your larger kind of leadership level decisions, analytics, reporting, but also, on that client matter delivery level as well. And so with that comes building AI aware staffing processes, right? AI aware budgeting and AI aware practice management. I think that's where eventually we're all headed to. And that's just one of those steps when we're transitioning into practical playbooks.
Mike, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think if we want to integrate AI into training, for example, we need to have a more sophisticated approach to data management, because I think everybody already knows that they need to collect data, that they need to collect data because otherwise their AI will not be efficient. But from my experience, when we work with global teams which are internationally famous for being great at collecting data, we see that they don't have the data for the training purposes. So even though they have data for the work, they don't have data for training. And from these examples, we see that this data is not interchangeable. So I think my recommendation is to understand which AI use cases you are focusing on in the next 1 or 2 years and start deliberately collecting data specifically for these AI use cases.
Well, thinking of the future, what is one capability law firms will need to develop in the next 2 to 3 years to stay competitive in an AI-enabled legal market? Ashley, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think I have a couple, but I think the one I want to focus on mostly is agentic AI or AI agents, and like where else can we put agents to help streamline workflows even more?
Excellent. Damien?
I'll focus on the human aspect of it, is building LPM and practice management aware teams, right? They're properly trained and they're embracing the technology.
Okay. Mike, your thoughts?
And I think that we need to build an environment where junior level lawyers are capable of developing their first principles thinking. Because from my experience right now, they're a bit a bit overly optimistic about all the benefits of AI, and I think for them it's equally important to focus not only on the AI capabilities, but also on the way they think and tackle problems with the help of AI.
Excellent. Well, I want to give a big thank you to Ashley, Damien, and Mike for sharing your valuable insights during today's discussion. I also want to thank the ILTA staff for coordinating and providing the scheduling assistance. Today's discussion has showed how AI is no longer just a series of pilots, but a practical, evolving part of day-to-day practice management. From analyzing performance metrics to unlocking insights from complex data, the examples that you all have shared highlight what's possible when innovation is paired with intention. We hope you're leaving today with not only ideas, but actionable strategies to turn your own AI efforts into scalable, repeatable playbooks. Hope everyone has a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.